Ryan sat in the small cockpit of his shuttle, staring at the blinking light on the console. The message had come from Queen Claire herself. It was short, urgent, and left him with a strange feeling in his chest. He did not know why she wanted to see him, but he knew that when the Queen called, it was never for a small matter. The colony spread across the rocky surface of the planet, its towers glinting under the twin suns. Humans had built it from scratch, far from home, and Queen Claire had ruled it for 5 years. She was young but sharp, and everyone respected her. Ryan had served under her since he was 18. He knew her orders were precise, and her questions often tested more than just knowledge. He adjusted the controls and began the flight to the command palace. The message repeated in his mind. "Ryan, I need you in the council hall. Urgent. Alone." He had never received a private call like this before. He felt a mixture of fear and curiosity. What could the Queen want from him? As he flew over the colony, he saw the usual activity below. Workers moved cargo, soldiers trained in formation, and the air was filled with the hum of engines and chatter of people. Everything seemed normal, but Ryan could not shake the feeling that something important was about to happen. When he arrived at the palace, guards opened the doors for him without a word. He stepped into the long corridor, polished floors reflecting the lights above. The council hall was at the end, and inside, Queen Claire waited. She stood by the large window, looking at the colony below. Her face showed calm, but her eyes held a question he could not read. "Ryan," she said without turning. "Thank you for coming." Her voice was steady, but held a weight that made him stand straight. "Your Majesty," Ryan said, bowing slightly. "I received your message." She finally turned to face him. Her gaze was direct, and he felt as if she could see every thought in his mind. "Ryan, I have a question for you. It may seem strange, but it is important." He nodded. "I will answer. If the colony faces a threat that could destroy thousands of lives, would you risk yourself to protect everyone?" she asked. Her words were simple, but the question felt heavier than any order he had ever received. Ryan paused. He thought of the soldiers under his command, of Emily and the others he had trained with, and of the families living in the colony. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but he could not answer immediately. He realized this was more than a question of bravery. It was a test of character. "I would do everything I could," he finally said. "I would fight even if it meant my life." Queen Claire nodded slowly. "Good, that is what I hoped you would say. But there is more." She walked toward him, and the quiet of the hall made every step echo. "If you had to make a choice between saving one life you care about and saving hundreds, what would you do?" Anne's heart skipped a beat. He had never faced such a question. The thought of losing someone close to him made his chest tighten. He opened his mouth, but no words came, and no ready answer, and he could feel the Queen waiting for him to think carefully. "Take your time," she said softly, though her eyes did not soften. "This will test more than your strength. It will test your mind, your judgment, and your loyalty." Ryan swallowed hard. He knew that the Queen's questions were never random. She wanted to see how he would act under pressure, how he would make choices that no one else could make. He felt both fear and determination rising inside him. He had trained for battle, for strategy, for survival, but never for a question like this. Outside the window, the colony seemed peaceful, but he knew danger could arrive at any moment. Ships could appear from the edge of space, threats he could not yet imagine. Yet, inside this hall, the most difficult challenge he faced was not an enemy outside it. Was the question the Queen had asked. Ryan took a deep breath. He knew he needed to find the answer, not just for himself, but for the colony, for Queen Claire, and for everyone who depended on him. The weight of responsibility pressed down, but he felt a strange clarity begin to form. The Queen had asked, and now he had to face the truth inside himself. He looked at Queen Claire and nodded. "I understand. I will find the answer." She gave a small, approving smile, and for the first time, Ryan felt that the Queen believed in him completely. The quiet of the hall wrapped around them, but both knew that this moment was the beginning of something far larger than either of them could yet see. Outside, the twin suns shone on the colony, and Ryan felt the first stirrings of what would become a journey that tested courage, loyalty, and the limits of human strength.
The next day, Ryan arrived at the training grounds early. The sun of the colony's twin stars shone bright, reflecting off the metal structures and the hulls of small ships parked nearby. Soldiers were preparing for drills, and the air was filled with the sounds of engines and commands. Ryan's mind, however, was not on the exercises. It was on Claire's questions from the council chamber. They had been simple in words, yet heavy with meaning. Emily approached him, carrying a data pad. She had trained with him for years and knew when something weighed on his mind. "Ryan, are you okay? You seem distracted," she asked. He shook his head slightly. "I am fine, Emily. Just thinking about the Queen's instructions." Emily studied him closely. "You mean the secret orders? The ones only you know?" Ryan nodded. "Yes, it is not just orders. She asked me questions. Questions that make me think about everything I stand for." Emily frowned. "Sounds serious. Do you think she doubts your loyalty?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Not doubts. She trusts me, but she wants to see how I handle what is coming. She is preparing me for something big." Just then, Jason walked by, his expression sharp and calculating. He was another soldier, skilled and ambitious. But Ryan had always sensed something in him that was not entirely loyal to the colony. Jason stopped briefly and glanced at Ryan. "Heard you met with the Queen alone. Must be nice to have her ear," he said, his tone smooth but challenging. Ryan ignored the provocation. He had learned long ago that responding to Jason's taunts rarely ended well. Instead, he focused on the drills ahead. They had to be ready for anything, and today's exercises would test their speed, coordination, and decision-making under pressure. The drills began. Ryan led a squad through simulated attacks, coordinating movements and issuing commands. His leadership was natural, and his team followed without hesitation. He noticed Emily at his side, offering suggestions and corrections, always supporting but also challenging him to think faster and better. The Queen's questions echoed in his mind. What would you do if faced with impossible choices? How far would you go to protect those who depend on you? Hours passed, and the sun moved lower in the sky. Ryan and his team completed the exercises with high marks. Yet, even in success, the questions lingered. They were not about skill or tactics alone. They were about courage, judgment, and the choices that defined a person. After the drills, the council chamber called a meeting. Claire was waiting, and Ryan could feel the intensity in the air before he even entered. She did not waste words. "Ryan, I need you to assess the readiness of the defense systems and the soldiers. Report any weaknesses." Ryan quickly analyzed the data. "Our defenses are strong, but the outer sectors have gaps in surveillance. A fast-moving threat could exploit them. Some of our soldiers are inexperienced in long-range combat. They would need additional training." Claire nodded. "Good. Now tell me, if you had to lead a strike into dangerous territory with those soldiers, would you do it? Would you risk them to protect the colony?" Ryan paused. Her question was personal, more than tactical. He thought about the soldiers, about Emily, about every life under his command. He realized the Queen was not just testing strategy, she was testing his willingness to take responsibility. Finally, he said, "I would lead them, Your Majesty. I would do everything I could to protect them and the colony." She studied him for a long moment. "That is what I needed to hear. Your loyalty and judgment are strong, but remember, this is only the beginning. Challenges will come that test more than skill. They will test your heart and your mind." Ryan felt the weight of her words settle in. He understood that the Queen's trust was not given lightly. It came with expectations, with responsibility, and with the potential for great danger. As the meeting ended, Ryan walked through the halls of the colony. He passed soldiers training, engineers working on ships, and scientists monitoring the sectors. Each person played a part in the survival of their home, and he felt their weight on his shoulders. The Queen's questions had prepared him for the truth. Leadership was not about orders alone. It was about choices and the courage to face them. He found Emily waiting outside the chamber. "Everything okay?" she asked. He nodded, "Yes, more than okay. I understand now what the Queen wants. We have to be ready, and I have to be ready too." Emily smiled, a small sign of trust and reassurance. "Then we will be together." Ryan looked out at the horizon where the stars met the outer space of their colony. He felt the pressure and the purpose. The questions of Queen Claire were not finished. They would continue to guide him, shape him, and test him. But for the first time, he felt ready to face whatever was coming, knowing that courage, loyalty, and the weight of choices would define the days ahead.
The next morning, Ryan woke early and went to the command center. The colony was calm on the surface, but the sensors were showing unusual movements in the outer sectors. He reviewed the data with careful eyes, noticing small clusters of ships moving in patterns that suggested they were scouting the colony. Something was coming, and it would not wait for warning. Queen Claire arrived at the command center shortly after him. She moved with confidence, her eyes scanning the displays and the personnel around her. Ryan watched her and felt the same respect he always did, but also a growing sense of urgency. She approached him and said, "Ryan, I need you to lead a small strike force. Must intercept these ships before they reach the colony." Ryan felt a surge of responsibility. This was the moment he had been preparing for, yet it carried risk for every soldier under his command. He nodded. "I will assemble the team and be ready, Your Majesty." He gathered Emily and several skilled pilots and soldiers. They moved quickly, checking weapons, shields, and communication systems. The tension was high. Every member of the team understood the gravity of the mission. They were going into unknown space, facing unknown threats. As they prepared to launch, Claire approached Ryan again. "Remember, your choices will matter. One decision could change everything. You're not just fighting for the colony, but for every life within it." Ryan took a deep breath. He had trained for combat, but this was more than training. It was a test of judgment, courage, and leadership. "I understand, Your Majesty. You will not fail." The ships lifted from the hangar, engines glowing as they entered the void. Ryan took the lead, navigating through the empty space with precision. The small squadron moved as one, each member aware of the stakes. The sensors confirmed that the enemy ships were ahead, moving closer to the colony. The first encounter came suddenly. A scout ship appeared out of nowhere, firing quickly. Ryan ordered evasive maneuvers, guiding his squadron to counter the attack. Emily called out positions, providing critical support. The team worked together, blocking attacks and responding with measured force. They destroyed the scout ship but knew the main force was coming. Ryan's mind raced. The Queen's words echoed in his head. One choice could change everything. He realized that attacking recklessly would endanger his team and the colony. He needed a plan that combined skill, timing, and courage. He instructed the squad to spread out and use the asteroids as cover, drawing the enemy into a trap. The enemy followed, underestimating the humans. Ryan's team waited for the right moment, then struck from multiple directions. The enemy ships faltered, their formation breaking. The battle was intense. Ryan coordinated movements, giving commands with clarity. Emily and the others trusted him completely. Their combined skill and quick thinking allowed them to destroy several enemy ships. The remaining ships retreated, vanishing into the distance. The colony was safe, for now. After the battle, Ryan returned to the colony. The team was exhausted but unharmed. They had faced real danger and survived because of courage and coordination. Ryan felt a sense of pride, but also a deep understanding of responsibility. Queen Claire awaited him in the command center. She did not smile, but her eyes were approving. "Well done, Ryan. You made the right choices under pressure. That is what true leadership looks like." Ryan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what was necessary." She walked closer, her voice quieter now. "Remember, the challenges will not end here. The questions I ask are not just about battle. They are about who you are and who you are becoming. The next test may be even greater." Ryan nodded. He understood her meaning. The battle had been just the first step. His courage and decisions had been tested, but his journey was far from over. The Queen's questions were lessons, guiding him to grow stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. He looked out at the stars beyond the command center. The colony was safe, for now. But he knew the future held more challenges, more choices, and more tests of loyalty and courage. And he would be ready. Ryan returned to the colony after the battle, the adrenaline fading, but the tension lingering. He walked through the corridors, noticing soldiers still repairing damage from the drills and training exercises. The victory had been important, but he knew the danger was not over. There were other threats, hidden and waiting, and his mind could not rest. As he passed the command center, he overheard Jason talking quietly to a group of soldiers. His tone was low but sharp, filled with a hint of cunning. Ryan paused, listening. Jason was questioning the Queen's decisions, suggesting that some orders might put the colony at risk. The words felt like a seed planted in the minds of those around him, subtle and dangerous. Ryan knew he had to act carefully. He could not confront Jason openly without risking suspicion. But he also could not let these ideas take root. He decided to gather more information before taking any steps. He went to Emily, who was organizing supplies for upcoming drills. "Emily, I need to know what you've seen of Jason. Has he been acting differently?" he asked. Emily nodded. "I've noticed he talks behind people's backs, questions orders quietly, and watches you closely. I think he wants to gain favor with the wrong people." Ryan considered this. He had faced enemies in space, but betrayal within the colony was more dangerous. It was hidden, unpredictable, and could weaken them from the inside. He knew the Queen's questions had prepared him for more than battles. They had prepared him for judgment and trust. Later that evening, Ryan was called to meet Queen Claire. He found her in the strategy room, surrounded by holographic displays of the colony and surrounding sectors. She looked up as he entered, her eyes calm but piercing. "Ryan," she said, "I have been informed of unusual behavior within our ranks. Loyalty cannot be assumed, even among those who have served long. I need your judgment on this matter." Ryan nodded. He realized this was a test. The Queen's questions were not only about external threats, but also about internal integrity. He took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, I have noticed Jason acting strangely. He speaks against orders quietly and watches the squad carefully. I think he may be trying to manipulate others." Claire studied him silently. "And what would you do if he betrays us? If he endangers the colony because of his ambition?" Ryan's heart raced. This was the kind of question he had feared. His answer could mean confrontation, risk, or worse. He thought of the soldiers, the people relying on them, and the trust the Queen had placed in him. Finally, he said, "I would confront him carefully and try to stop him before harm comes to the colony. If that fails, I would act to protect everyone, even if it puts me at risk." Claire's expression softened slightly, but her eyes remained focused. That is what I needed to hear. Loyalty and courage must guide your actions. You understand the weight of responsibility, and that is what will define your future. After the meeting, Ryan walked through the quiet corridors. The weight of the Queen's questions pressed on him. They were not easy, and they were not meant to be. He realized that leadership was more than tactics or combat skill. It was about judgment, loyalty, and the courage to make hard choices. He met Emily again near the hangar. "The Queen's questions are testing you in ways I never imagined," she said softly. "You are growing into someone extraordinary." Ryan nodded. "I understand now. It is not about winning battles alone. It is about protecting people, making the right choices, being ready for what comes next." As night fell over the colony, Ryan stood by the observation window. The stars were quiet and endless, but he knew the peace was fragile. His threats could come from outside, and betrayal could come from within. He felt the burden of responsibility and the courage it demanded. He whispered to himself, "I will be ready." The Queen's questions had pushed him to understand that strength alone was not enough. It was wisdom, trust, and action together that would protect the colony. And he would carry that knowledge into every choice, every mission, and every challenge that lay ahead. Ryan spent the next morning in the strategy room with Queen Claire. The colony was calm, but the sensors still showed distant movements in the outer sectors. Claire moved quickly between the holographic displays, pointing to clusters of readings and formations. "Ryan, we cannot wait for them to reach us," she said. "We need to take the fight to them before they can threaten the colony. But this mission will require careful planning. We will not have the advantage of surprise for long." Ryan studied the data, noting weak points in the enemy's formation. He considered the skills of his team and the resources available. "We could use a diversion," he suggested. "A small squad can draw some of their ships out, while the main force attacks from another angle. It would split their attention and give us a better chance." Claire nodded. "That is the kind of thinking I need. But remember, every choice you make will have consequences. Lives will be at stake. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Ryan hesitated, thinking of Emily and the soldiers under his command. He understood the weight of the Queen's question. It was not about tactics alone. It was about courage, leadership, and the willingness to act when the risks were high. Finally, he said, "I am prepared, Your Majesty. I will do everything possible to protect them." "Good," Claire said, her tone calm but serious. "This mission will test more than your skill. It will test your judgment and your ability to make hard choices. I trust you to act wisely." Preparations began immediately. Ryan oversaw the equipping of ships, the loading of supplies, and the coordination of communication channels. Every soldier knew their role, and every pilot practiced maneuvers. The air was tense with anticipation, but Ryan's calm leadership helped steady the team. Emily approached him. "Ryan, the squad trusts you completely. Whatever comes, they will follow your lead." He nodded. "I will lead them well. We succeed together or not at all." As they launched, the squadron moved through space with precision. The distant enemy ships were visible on the sensors, their movements cautious but deliberate. Ryan guided the diversionary squad toward one cluster, while the main force followed a different path to strike at the center of the formation. Every movement had to be coordinated, every decision timed. The enemy noticed the diversion and took the bait. Ryan's plan worked, drawing several ships away from the main force. The battle began in earnest. Laser fire and explosions lit the void as Ryan directed the attack. Emily provided critical support, monitoring shields and relaying positions. The soldiers moved with precision, trusting his commands. Even in the heat of battle, Ryan's mind remembered the Queen's words. Every choice had meaning. Reckless action could cost lives. Measured action could save the colony. He guided his team with courage and care, striking at key points and protecting weaker units. Their combined skill and trust allowed them to gain the upper hand. After a long struggle, the enemy forces began to retreat. The squadron regrouped and returned to the colony, victorious but exhausted. Ryan knew this victory was only part of the challenge. More tests and questions awaited him, and the responsibility of leadership remained. Queen Claire met him in the command center. She did not smile, but her eyes showed approval. "Ryan, you made the right choices under pressure. Your courage and judgment have kept the colony safe. He bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what was necessary." She stepped closer, her voice quieter, more serious. "Remember, the lessons of this mission are not over. Your decisions have shaped the future, but the true test will come when the stakes are even higher. You are becoming the kind of leader I hope to find. Do not forget what you have learned here." Ryan nodded, understanding the depth of her meaning. This mission had tested his skills, his courage, and his judgment. It had also prepared him for challenges yet to come, challenges that would define the colony and his place within it. As he left the command center, he walked through the quiet corridors, reflecting on the battle and the Queen's words. He knew that leadership was more than giving orders or winning fights. It was about making the right choices, protecting those who depended on him, and facing the consequences with courage. He met Emily at the hangar, both of them looking out at the stars. "We did well," she said, her voice calm but proud. Ryan nodded. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. More challenges will come. We must be ready." The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder of the vast universe around the colony and the responsibilities that came with protecting it. Ryan felt the weight of the Queen's trust and the courage it demanded. He knew he was ready for the next test, whatever it might be. The next morning, Ryan and his squad prepared for another mission. The sensors had detected larger groups of enemy ships moving closer to the colony. The tension in the command center was high. Every member of the team understood the danger, and every move had to be precise. Queen Claire approached Ryan. "This will be the ultimate test," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Your decisions will decide the survival of the colony. I trust you to act wisely." Ryan nodded. He felt the weight of her words. The previous battles had tested his skill, but now everything was on a larger scale. He would need courage, leadership, and quick judgment to succeed. He assembled his team and explained the plan. The main squad would engage the enemy directly, drawing them into a controlled zone. A secondary squad would flank the enemy, striking key targets while minimizing risk to civilians and soldiers. Every action had to be coordinated perfectly. Emily was by his side, monitoring communications and shields. "Ryan, everyone is ready. We trust your lead," she said. He gave a small nod. "Stay alert, stay focused, and follow commands. We will succeed together." The ships launched from the hangar and moved into formation. The void of space stretched endlessly before them, stars reflecting off the holes. Ryan led the main squad toward the enemy, keeping a careful eye on every movement. The enemy was prepared, firing as soon as the human ships came into range. Laser blasts lit the dark space as Ryan directed his team. Evasive maneuvers, counterattacks, and coordinated strikes became a rhythm. He remembered the Queen's words about responsibility and judgment. Every decision mattered. The secondary squad moved silently, using asteroid fields for cover. Ryan coordinated with them through communications, timing their attack to strike the enemy's weak points. The maneuver worked. The enemy formation began to falter under the human strategy. Even as the battle raged, Ryan kept thinking of the Queen's questions. They were not just about skill, but about courage, judgment, and the ability to act under pressure. He made quick decisions to protect his squad, avoid unnecessary risk, and maximize the effect of their attacks. Emily called out positions, tracking enemy ships, and warning Ryan of incoming threats. The team responded quickly, moving in unison. The humans destroyed several enemy ships, forcing the rest to retreat. Ryan breathed deeply, keeping his focus. The battle was not over until every threat was neutralized. He guided the squads to regroup and pursue the remaining ships. Their coordinated strikes pushed the enemy back further, clearing the space around the colony. When the final enemy ships retreated beyond sensors, Ryan signaled the squad to return. The team was exhausted, but alive. Their skill, courage, and trust in leadership had kept them safe and secured the colony's safety for now. Back at the colony, Queen Claire waited in the command center. She did not smile, but her eyes showed approval. "Ryan, your leadership and decisions have saved the colony again. You handled the ultimate test well." He bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. The team performed brilliantly. I only guided them." She stepped closer, her voice quiet. "Remember, Ryan, this battle was only one step. The challenges ahead will demand even more. Your courage, loyalty, and judgment will be tested in ways you cannot yet imagine. Ryan understood. The Queen's questions were lessons, shaping him into a leader capable of protecting the colony against threats both outside and within. Every mission, every choice, every act of courage brought him closer to that goal. As he walked through the colony corridors, he passed soldiers repairing ships and engineers monitoring systems. The victory was theirs, but he felt the weight of responsibility more than relief. The Queen's trust was not given lightly, and he knew he must continue to be ready. He found Emily near the observation window, both of them looking at the stars. "Ryan, you did everything right," she said. "The colony owes you and the team." He nodded, eyes on the stars. "We did it together, but I know the challenges are not over. Whatever comes next, we must be ready." The stars stretched endlessly, a reminder of the dangers beyond and the responsibilities within. Ryan felt the weight of his role, the courage it demanded, and the trust of Queen Claire. He knew that the final test might be ahead, but he would meet it with the strength, wisdom, and leadership he had gained. Ryan returned to the colony after the final battle, the victory hard-earned but not without cost. The squad moved through the corridors, weary but alive. The colony itself had been spared destruction, but the memory of the fight weighed heavily on everyone. Queen Claire waited for him in the command center. She stood tall, her presence calm, but commanding. Ryan approached, bowing slightly. She gestured for him to rise, her eyes steady on his. "Ryan," she said, "you have proven your courage, your skill, and your judgment. But now there is one question that remains. One that will define not only your future, but the future of the colony." Ryan felt a chill. He had faced battles, threats, and betrayal, but he knew this was different. The Queen's questions had always been tests of courage, loyalty, and leadership. This final question was personal, deeper, and heavier than anything before. Claire continued, her voice quiet but firm. "Ryan, throughout all of this, you have shown loyalty and courage beyond measure. But I need to know something more. Are you ready to take responsibility for everything? It's not just as a soldier, but as a protector of the colony. As someone who can stand by my side in making decisions that affect every life here." Ryan stood silently, his mind racing. He thought of Emily, the soldiers, the civilians, and the countless lives depending on their choices. He remembered the battles, the sacrifices, and the trust the Queen had placed in him. Her question was not just about courage or skill. It was about trust, loyalty, and the willingness to accept responsibility at the highest level. He swallowed hard and finally spoke. "Your Majesty, I am ready. I will do everything I can to protect the colony, the people, and to make the right choices, even when they are difficult. I will stand with you, and I will not fail." Claire studied him, her eyes softening. A faint smile appeared, the first he had seen after so many tense days. "That is the answer I needed, Ryan. You understand the weight of your actions and the value of trust? You are ready?" Ryan felt a sense of relief, but also the full weight of responsibility. The Queen's final question had revealed what his role truly meant. It was not about victories in battle alone. It was about guidance, leadership, and the courage to face choices that could affect thousands. The council gathered soon after, and Ryan was formally recognized for his service and leadership. He did not feel proud for himself alone, but for the team that had stood with him through every challenge. The Queen acknowledged each person, showing that trust and loyalty extended to all who had fought and sacrificed. Later, as the colony settled into peace once more, Ryan walked through the observation deck with Emily. The stars stretched out endlessly, calm after the storm of battles. "We made it," Emily said softly. "The colony is safe because of you." Ryan shook his head slightly. "We made it together. I could not have done this alone. Every choice, every action mattered. The Queen's questions taught me that. Courage and loyalty alone are not enough. Wisdom, judgment, and responsibility make the difference." Emily nodded, understanding. "And now you are ready for anything." Ryan looked at the stars, feeling the weight and the hope that came with responsibility. He knew challenges would continue, and that the future would always demand courage and careful judgment. But he was ready, strengthened by the lessons, the battles, and the trust the Queen had placed in him. Queen Claire approached quietly, standing beside him. She did not speak, but the presence was enough. Ryan understood her meaning. Trust had been given, and responsibility accepted. The colony's future was safe, for now, in human hands. He took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "I am ready." It was not just a promise to the Queen, but to himself, to the team, and to every life in the colony. The final question had been answered, and with it came clarity, courage, and the knowledge that he could face whatever came next. The stars outside shimmered endlessly, and Ryan knew that humanity, with leadership, loyalty, and courage, could overcome any challenge. The Queen's trust and the lessons of the battles would guide him forever. He was ready to protect, to lead, and to make the choices that would shape the future of the colony.